Hello, everyone, and we're so glad that you could join us this morning and see what there is to be known in this wonderful day that we have. Our topic this morning is the tapestry of life. And I know that we've been talking all week, all month long about diversity and multiplicity within that oneness. So that's kind of where we're headed today. I don't have any fish stories, not even the one that got away. And so those of you that have been following Reverend Jill all month, bear with me. We'll get there. Okay. So this whole thing about multiplicity and diversity and unity and oneness, I don't know about you, but I've been living in those places for the last 6 months, having to figure out, how is this world working for me now that nothing's like it ever was before? How is it that I have to be separated from you, both in physical distance and with a mask and other things, and sustain our sense of oneness? And so that's where I want to go today. I want to talk about that concept of being one while being two. And that's what a tapestry is about. We're going to talk about tapestries as well. All right, so on the concept, what is all this multiplicity? Well, multiplicity obviously is there's a bunch of stuff. There's more than one thing for us to deal with. There's more than ourself and our partner or housemate or whomever we interact with the most. There's more than just the two of us. And so there's more and more and more that we interact with all the time, that we have to engage to get our life to work. I have to call the gas company now and then. I have to go to the grocery store. Those are the things that are part of my life, the multiple nature of my relationships. It's not just me and my cat. It's everyone on the planet. And although there are some that I would, as I say, my favorite saying is, they're very nice people and I choose to not go bowling with them. Or as my teacher, Irene Hunter, used to say, I can get along with anybody as long as I understand how long I can get along with them. She said, I have 2 weak friends. We can go on a trip, we can share a room, we can do all kinds of things. She said, I have 2-minute friends. And after 2 minutes, I'm done. And if I know that and honor that about myself, I get along with everybody. So isn't that what we always talk about, that we want everybody to get along? And so in this multiplicity, there's that shift and change that we make all the time of, how do I work this situation? How do I speak with this individual? How do I take what they said and move it into my awareness and be functional for me and functional for them? See, it's not easy being a human, is it? With or without a mask. And then we also talk about, we want to celebrate people's diversity. We want to know that everybody's not like me, thank goodness, because I know stuff about me you don't want to know. And I'm sure vice versa. And so what we want is, we want to have that place where we can see the differences and to enjoy them and appreciate them and say, I'm so glad you're doing that, because it's very clear to me that's not my gig. And so we look for that commonality of support, of encouragement, of nourishment, knowing that we're totally different. Then what comes from that is what we celebrate in spiritual communities all over the world, a sense of unity, a sense of oneness and wholeness. Someone mentioned it, it's like finding that place where you're in accord, in a place where it all hums right with other people, however that may be. And sometimes we need to change a little bit for that right sound to come. How many of you are musicians of any kind? instruments, singing, whatever. Okay, aren't there times when you've got what you think is just the great one and it sounds really bad with what everybody else is doing? And one or both of you shift that tone so that you are in one accord, where you are in that place where the music is beautiful again. And so we take our unique diversities, and yet we've committed to this thing called unity of, I want to be with you. I want us to do this together. Don't you love all these wonderful songs that have shown up on Facebook and Zoom of all the boxes and the children singing in this choir and this amazing song, and these musicians, and they're playing all of their instruments in different places, and it all comes together and we get to see all the different pieces. You know, if we were in an auditorium looking at an orchestra, we might really only see the body. Or we might look for our favorite instrument and focus on that and how they're playing. But with these boxes, we get to see everyone in their unique way. And so that, I think, is what we're being called into during this time of our lives, with the pandemic, with the election coming up, with just simply Keith getting older, and and changes that take place where we have to adjust to this or that, whether it's how our body works or what's available to us. So we're finding these adjustments to where we can see this happening. And then that brings us to a place of feeling oneness. That brings us to a place, oneness is singleness, yes, but we don't lose ourselves. It's a certain matter of integrity with a sense of wholeness within us. And it's a place of harmony where we all get along. And so this has been our big challenge this whole year, hasn't it? So many things have happened for us, to us. We've lost loved ones, we've lost jobs, we've lost comfort levels of all different types. And it's real easy for us to feel separated from one another simply because we can't reach out and touch. So how do we work with that? How do we move into that and create a new tapestry for ourselves? So then Kathryn says, what's a tapestry? It's a word that I've liked for a very long time, and what I kept thinking of as I was working with this was actually not a woven tapestry as we normally would think, but of a couple of rugs that my mother made in the style called latch hook. And they provide you in this kit with little pieces of yarn and a canvas with a color pattern on it. And just like coloring in a book, you take the right color yarn and put it in that place. And I have a couple of them that are beautiful. One of them is a nature scene, like an old farmhouse and a rolling hills and so on, a road going by. Another one is of Indian pots. And another one is, it's a very long one, and it's an old grandfather clock. And I also have a couple of beautiful tapestries that my brother brought her from Europe. And they're very tight woven. They're not just pulled threads. It's very tightly woven and creates a European style scene in darker colors, and it's much larger and hangs on the wall. So many different tapestries of our lives that we make. So here we are. The question is, what shall I weave? What shall I weave? What do I want to show others of my life in this weaving? And how do I want to look myself? What will others want to join me in if I do a group weaving, for instance? And one of the questions is, will I welcome them? Will I take them bowling with me? Okay. So we have that set of questions. Then we ask, what are the materials that I want to do this with? Do I want to do it with yarn? Do I want to do it with thread? Do I want to? How many of you as children took and cut up construction paper in slats and lengths and you wove them together and made a little placemat? Yeah, a lot of us did that. And so it doesn't matter what the material is, it still is considered woven. What does matter, what the material is what I choose to weave for myself. We always want to know, what am I putting into this thing called my life? So how many of you have been upset sometime in the last 6 months? I have to confess, I've created a new word. When a friend of mine passed away from the COVID, I decided my word is now pandemic. Because it just was wrong that should happen. And so we have those emotions that are, sticking with us. And then we have opinions. Anybody have an opinion in the last 4 weeks? Okay. I'm sure you won't have any before the end of the year either. But we have these thoughts, these emotions, these feelings that we weave into our lives without even realizing we're doing it. And then we come to that place where we suddenly feel ill. We don't feel happy. We feel like, as my mother used to say, someone has licked the red off our candy. And then we get grumpy, and it goes on from there. And so one of the lessons I've been giving myself throughout this year and all of its activities and occurrences, people say, oh, we're never going to have the same normal again. It'll never be the same again. Well, that's probably true. It's not like it was in my grandparents' day either. Things change. And sometimes we save those things from our grandparents. I do that. I do that. And yet, if we are not going to have what we've always had before, I know, as a result of this teaching, that I choose all the time. I get to choose, and so I've been asking myself, what kind of a life do I want to create for myself? Do I want to be near people? It's kind of nice not to be some days. Do I want to work a certain kind of job? Do I want to change that kind of job? So many small decisions. What kind of food do I want to eat? Am I going to go to Jack in the Box my whole life because I don't want to cook? Or am I going to go to the grocery store where everybody's touched everything? Doesn't that make you crazy? And the first time I went in the grocery store with my rubber gloves on, and I'm picking up a can, I'm going, how many years have you picked up a can and you didn't care about wearing a rubber glove? So our lives have changed dramatically. But what I'm doing with all of this is I'm saying, how do I want to weave the rest of my life? What materials do I want to use in it? Do I want to use the yarn? Do I want to use the thread? Do I want to use a satin thread? Do I want to use a hemp? How do I want to put this all together? Do I want to paint it? And then what will I put in it? There are many things that I've done all my life that I like, that I do them. And I want to continue them. There's a few things I could maybe let go of. Anybody else can let go of a few things? Yeah. One of our ministers puts a thing on Facebook all the time, questions, and he has people answer, and they're sometimes really great. So he said, what's in your refrigerator right now that you should throw out? And so people are putting down all kinds of stuff that's in there that's overdue, and I just wrote, me. I need to throw me out of the refrigerator. And so those kinds of considerations are the changes that we'll make. So, who are you now? Do you like who you are now? Would you be willing to have a portrait of yourself on the wall as who you are now? That's one of the questions that's always been so important to me once I started understanding the science of mind teaching. If I'm at choice and I don't like how it is now, what can I do to change it? Now, usually what we try to do is we try to change everybody else. I had a lady who used to always come up and she said, "You got to pray for my roommate." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to do that." "You're not going to pray for my roommate?" I said, "No, I'm going to pray for you about your roommate." And that's what it's really about. And so this is what we want to do. I choose how I want to live, what I want to weave into the tapestry of my life. And long, long ago, I wrote a little song. I won't sing, I promise, although I like to. The materials that we use, and the song was about weaving a new life, believe it or not. And it says, "Weaver, weaver, weave within me all of the peace that I was born to be. Weave me the wisdom to set my spirit free. O weaver, weave peace in me." And at that point in time, the theme of our church was to be a world of peace and love and joy. And so then we had the two other verses of weave love in me, weave joy in me. And so I challenge you to ask yourself, what is it that you really want to have woven into the tapestry going forward? We can have the same material, and depending on how much of it we use, will have a different effect. Just like we can have a fish net that is very thin and, about the size of your finger, and we can have them that are, the size of a big barrel. And it all does the same thing. It does what it's set out to do. So this access that we have to change the things in our lives and create a whole new definition for ourselves is what's the most important of all. And so it got me to thinking. I hadn't intended to do this originally, but it said, do it, and so I am. How many of you are familiar with what we call the Sermon by the Sea? Oh, how many of you have one of the most recent publications of the Science of Mind textbook? It's in the back of many of the new textbooks, the Sermon by the Sea. And this was the last talk that Ernest Holmes gave at the summer conference at Asilomar in Monterey. And it was in August of 1959. He passed away in April 1960. And the Sermon by the Sea, they have a beautiful chapel there, and so he would always give the last address for the week. And it was always a precious time for everybody. And this, the last one, has become very important to so many of us. And I want to read pieces of it to you. He says, "Having the privilege of starting religious science, I would wish, will, and desire above all things that the simplicity and purity of our teaching would never be violated." And then he goes on and he says, "I would that we should not build out of the body of our simplicity and grandeur and beauty other creeds loaded with superstition, a fear of the unknown, and a dread of the unseen." He said, don't do that. Don't do that. We have discovered a pearl of great price, and we have discovered the rarest gem that has ever found, setting in the intellect of the human race. The gem is within us, he said. It's complete simplicity, complete directness, a freedom from fear and superstition about the unknown and about God. And so we've had a lot of fears the last year, haven't we? What am I going to do about this? What if this happens? What if that happens? But within us is the capacity and the calling to make that change for ourselves. Just like we can choose what to wear today, we can choose how to live. He said, and when we have rediscovered that which the great, the good, and the wise have sung about and thought about, the imprisoned splendor within ourselves and within each other, and have direct contact with it, And it doesn't matter if we call it the Christ in us, or Buddha, or Atman, or just Son of God, or the living Spirit. It just doesn't make any difference what we call it. You and I are witness to the divine fact, and we have discovered an authority beyond our minds, even though our minds utilize it. And out of this we have then prepared ourselves, I think, and I hope and I pray and I believe. Have we prepared ourselves for the not normal? Have we made those choices and decisions for ourselves? Have we taken the opportunity that while we're having opinions, differences of opinions, with individuals or organizations or movements or whatever, have we taken the opportunity to see that greater truth in them? As I often say when someone's acting like I don't think they should, like they should, I say, oh, so this is what God looks like through you today. Because that is my way of acknowledging that that spiritual presence is there, whether I like it right now or not. That's me. That's not them. And only when we come to that place of awareness of God is all there is and I am one with that and so is everybody else, will we come to the place of wholeness. Will we come to that place where the dreams and desires that we speak of in the rhetoric of today actually takes place. I don't want to fight it anymore. I don't want to keep stabbing pencils at my tapestry and poking holes in it. I want to weave it neatly, tightly, cleanly, distinctly, showing the life that I choose to live. Holmes says this is what religious science stands for. It's not a new dogma. It's not a new authority. It's not anything that's alleged revelation of God. It's just what is, that our thinking changes our lives. And so then this last part is what really calls to people so many times. And see if you land in this description. Find me one person who can get his own littleness out of the way, and he shall reveal to me the immeasurable magnitude of the universe in which I live. Find me one person who knows how to talk to God, really, really, and I shall walk with that person through the woods, and everything that seems inanimate will respond. And the leaves of the trees will clap their hands, and the grass will grow soft under him. Find me one person who communes with cause and effect. And in the evening star will sing to him, and the darkness will turn to light through him, as the woman who touches the hem of the garment of the Christ and was healed. Then shall I be healed of all loneliness forever. Find me someone who is no longer sad, whose memory has been redeemed from morbidity, and I shall hear laughter. Find me one person who no longer doubts, no longer wavers, but not one who with a proclamation of superiority says, look at me, I have arrived, I will not listen to that, he said. Only that which reveals me to myself can be a message to me. Only that which gives me back to myself can save me. Only that which leads me to the God within myself can reveal God. And only that person can do it to whom the vision has come through their own efforts, through the gift of God. So often, Michael Beckwith says, don't get caught up in the phenomenon of meditation. Ooh, wow, I had this great meditation. Oh, did you feel that? Oh, I remember. That's all phenomenon. Let us stay in that place of meditation and continue to absorb what it is offering without going, oh yeah, and then this happened, and then that happened. As soon as we do that, we've left our meditation. As soon as we keep wanting to fix the neighbor, we've stopped creating a boundless place for us to enjoy, to appreciate, and be surrounded by the people who are loving and kind and share with us that beauty and joy. He says, find me somebody who has detached his emotions and psychological ego from the real self without having to deny the place it plays in the scheme of things, and without staying any part of himself, because the transcendence is there also. And I will have discovered the ineffable in this individual and a direct pathway for the communion of my own soul. Find the one who can detach and see the truth. And let it be me that does that seeing. Let it be me. And then he says at the very end, there's more, and he says, you find me 1,000 people in the world who know what religious science is and use it, and live it as it is. And I'll myself live to see a new world and a new heaven and a new earth right here. What I'm saying is this: there is a law that backs up the vision, and the law is immutable. There's a power transcendent beyond our needs and our little wants, demonstrating a dime is good if one needs it. Healing oneself of pain is certainly good if one has it. But beyond that, at the real feast, at the tabernacle of the Almighty, in the temple of the living God, in the banquet hall of heaven, there is something beyond anything that you and I have touched. You find me 1,000 people who know that and use that, and the world will no longer be famished. How important it is that each one of us, in our simple way, shall live from God, to God, with God, in God, and to each other. And that is why we're here. And we are taking back from the Asilomar experience, from this moment, from every thought we have, we are taking with us a trust, a vision, and an inspiration, something beyond a hope and a longing. And that is that the living Spirit shall through us walk anew into its own creation and a new glory, and come to us in the new dawn. A lot of words, aren't they? But they're words worth reading repeatedly. Let me be that. Let me work on myself. Let me create my tapestry. Not so that others say, oh, isn't that beautiful? Let us look at it. What a great artist. When are you going to do the next one? Isn't that usually what happens? And yet, a life well lived is a good life. We have that opportunity in the midst of all the craziness that goes on in the world, whether it's the summer heat or the pandemic or the things that go on in our lives. We are at choice every single moment. Weaver, weaver, weave within me all of the peace that I was born to be, Weave me the wisdom to set my spirit free. O weaver, weave peace in me. And so it is. So, shall we do a prayer, Mr. Joe? Yes, thank you. That sounded like a pretty good prayer myself, but we'll give it another shot. How's that? Just join me, please, in prayer. We are so blessed to be able to be with one another, literally, virtually, emotionally, mentally. What a blessed life we live. So much wonderful goodness has happened that we have seen, and we cease allowing the sadness, the frustration, the fear, the uncertainties to block from our sight the beautiful life that we have, the joy of spirit living through us as us, the ability to see that same presence in all beings, all circumstances. And as we do that for ourselves, uniquely for ourselves, we expand it out and allow the blessings of truth and joy and love and peace and wisdom and right action and clarity to be the truth of every single being on this planet, whether they are driving a wooden cart or riding in an airplane, whether they are speaking to thousands or speak only to themselves. We know that each and all are made of the same infinite divine stuff that is God, that is the essence, that is the truth, that is joy. So we wrap around all beings, all across this planet, accepting fully and completely that the wisdom of Spirit brings to them that perfect divine health, that place of comfort, that place of strength, that place of sustenance, of sufficiency, of prosperity. We let go of all those things that would block us from creating this wonderful tapestry of living, of being, of moving forward into a greater dimension than we have ever known before. Our greatest greatness does lie ahead of us. And so this day, we make those choices as to what we would carry along with us. Is it irritation? Is it sadness? Is it condemnation? Is it those things that cause us to not forgive? All of those are in the past. Oh, let us leave them in the past. Let us them not be part of our new normal. We choose every day. There's only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. And that life is my life right now. I think it. I know it. I accept it. And I claim it. All is well. And I am blessed. And so it is.